All right. Good night. Today we're going to discuss a very fascinating topic, and it's basically agile people development and agile people. Hopefully, this can help us identify and develop our human talent for business growth within our organization. This is one of the topics that currently we are exploring and overviewing in our community, the Agile Leads in London. So, for all of you that are fascinated by this subject, please join the conversation, bring your knowledge and your experience. We want to learn from you. My name is Nastasia Velasco, and I'm the founder of Growth Vikings. I'm an economist and a political scientist that works with organizations in the Agile arena. I'm extremely fascinated by the potential that Agile has for business growth and for people development. Okay. Now let's start talking a little bit about it. But before that, if you want to get engaged into the Agile conversation, or if you're looking for learning Agile, especially online, do visit us at growthvikings.com. We have amazing content for you to learn in the Agile arena, online courses, immersive experiences that hopefully can help you engage with Agile. We also have a community of Agilists ready to help and connect and grow with you. So, why do we have Vikings in a presentation about Agile people and Agile development? Well, those who are part of the Agile Leads meetup know that we always put kind of image that seeks to tease people around, especially when we are talking about such serious subjects in agility. The idea of the Vikings is that besides being quite quarrelsome, the truth is that they were pretty good at exploring, at taking adversity in a good manner, and not being afraid of adversity. So we put the Vikings here is because we can see that Agile people are a bit of that. They are explorers that are not shy when adversity comes. They actually are pretty good at managing uncertainty, adapting, trying to find solution, making their best, doing their best. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why we're putting here the Vikings. We believe Agile people are little Vikings. They explore, they try to do things, they iterate on things, they're curious, they're pretty purpose driven, and many other characteristics that we're going to see. But just to let you know, that's why we put the Vikings there. Now, in a nutshell, we are going to cover very briefly and not in detail a framework to support the Agile development of our people within our organization. This framework is created by taking into consideration the great work already done, first by Gallup in their re-engineering organizations. They had a white paper that was focused like on re-engineering performance management, which has great key insights for organizations. It also takes into consideration the Organizational Health Index by McKinsey. They have great work on how to support performance, people, and development within organizations. But more importantly, it takes into consideration the Agile Manifesto and the learnings that we have within our Agile community of how working ways, such as, for example, using a Scrum or using Kanban, can help our organizations achieve better lead time to market, better products, and better collaboration between people. Hence, this framework kind of tries to take all these learnings and show us what could be one way in which we could help our people develop within the organization in a systematic way. So, what are some steps that we can do with our people so we help them develop in an agile way within our organizations? And this is the framework that I propose. Now, besides that, we are going to touch upon what could we understand as agile people and in an organized way. And in order to do that, I will take into consideration a lot of the literature about agile people that is currently available for us as agilists. For example, here I recommend an amazing book by Pia Thurston on agile people, which allows us to learn that when we talk about agile people, we're talking about people that are curious, that are value driven, that are purpose driven, that collaborate with each other, that are inclusive, that are lovers of diversity, that are innovation driven, learners that are very trustworthy, that they like to experiment, to iterate, they're adaptable. So many great characteristics that are actually the Agile People Manifesto created by Pia, another 18 Agilists, informed us. So I take into consideration that knowledge that we have within our Agile community, and I organize it in a way that we can better map the strength that underlie or that are fundamentally associated to Agile people. And to map those strengths, what I took into consideration was the amazing learnings from Clifton assessment, from Gallup Clifton assessment to actually achieve that mapping. So my proposal is that there's 17 strengths that characterize Agile people. And be very careful with this word, strength. And this is very important because if we start seeing people as a combination of a strength, it gets pretty interesting. So the proposal is that at execution level, Agile people have these 4 key strengths. And those of you that are pretty knowledgeable in the Clifton assessment, you know that you don't have committed. It's true. This is something that I added, okay? Because as I mentioned, it brings some knowledge from the Agile community, okay? And in Scrum, one of the values that we have is commitment. So a way for me to try to bring that in a more explicit way, it's this way, okay? So at execution level, Agile people are committed, are focused, are restorative, and are achievers. At influencing level, Agile people are driven by significance, and we're going to learn further down the line what does that mean. Our activators are not scared of competing, and they're pretty good at self-assurance. In terms of relationship building, Agile people are adaptable, are included, are connected. They have that sense of connectedness. They are capable of individualizing, and they're pretty good being relators. And as strategic thinking, Agile people are analytical, are learners, are strategic, and understand their contacts, okay? Hence, as you can see, they're pretty strong in relationship building, okay? And this is something that we're going to discuss a bit more, and that is pretty characteristic of the Agile community. So this is what we're going to talk about. How to develop from an Agile approach our people within our organization. And when we talk about Agile people, what are some of the strengths that characterize them? Isn't that interesting? Extremely interesting. So I hope that you enjoy it. And if you have any questions, any doubts, or even if you don't agree with many of these things, leave it as a comment in the YouTube video or in our community. We would love to debate with you and learn from you and share knowledge. So let's get going. What's the agenda for us? We're going to briefly overview why do we have to talk about agile development? Why do we have to talk about agile people development? What's the imperative? Why is it important? And why should we care about agile people? You know, like, why is it important? So we're going to talk about the agile imperative. Moreover, we're going to cover the people's agility framework, which I briefly showed you. And then while covering it, we're going to discuss some tools and process frameworks that help us create that system, that framework in which people can become agile, can be more agile. Yes? Let's go. So let's start by the interesting thing, the Agile Imperative. Okay, so yeah, it's been already more than 11 years, right? But since 2009, we have heard about organizations facing turbulent markets. Yes. And turbulent markets demand higher organizational performance and higher agility. Okay? To achieve performance, organizations today must overcome unstable economic climate, ever-changing customer needs, up-and-coming technology market stares, and most importantly, disappointing returns on investment and changes in the workforce. These two last are particularly worrisome. They both, as you can see here, disrupt the technical, management, and behavioral systems that underlie performance. Salient is the impact of both of these variables on what we call performance management. Okay? Now, you can ask yourself, well, and why should I care? Why does it matter? Why does it matter that like the performance management within organization is being disrupted? Well, it matters because traditionally performance management was the navigational compass of the organization. It created a shared understanding about what is to be achieved and provided an approach to leading and developing people that used to guarantee that we achieve what we set out to do. Hence, the optimal functionality of performance management was fundamental, especially for what we call the learning and growth infrastructure that supports, as you can see here, internal processes, customer value proposition, shareholder values, and our social impact. If performance management is disrupted from the base up, all the organization is disrupted. This is why it's so important. Nevertheless, the evidence paints a scary picture. And when I talk about the evidence here, I'm using a statistic by Gallup. And I'm using Gallup because I like Gallup in this arena. What we can see is that today our organizational capital is underperforming And why do I say this? Let's look at the numbers. 21% of employees strongly agree their performance is managed in a way that motivates them to do outstanding work. Only 21%. The rest doesn't think that. 44% of employees strongly agree that they can see how their work goals connect to the organization goals. That means that 56% doesn't think so. 16% of employees report that someone took an interest in developing their strength in the past week. The rest doesn't say that. What this tells us, okay, is that in many organizations, we are seeing ineffective managers, shortfalls in alignment, and also cultures that are pretty transactional rather than very advocated to developing the strength of the people. Also, at human level, or at human talent level, or human capital is disengaged, and this is not new. Is not new, right? Like if you're working in the area of human talent, this is a challenge that you're facing and that you're trying to solve for your organization every day. Or if you're the owner of your own business or the leader of a unit, you're trying to get your human capital more engaged. And what we're seeing is something like this. So 50% of employees clearly know what is expected of them at work. The rest doesn't know what is expected of them. 33%, and this is the case of US, okay, of the employees are engaged in their job. That's 1/3. 2/3 of people of employees are not engaged in their jobs. And then 18% of employees strongly agree that employees who perform better grow faster at their organization, which is crazy and disappointing. So as we're seeing unclear expected results, disengaged employees, and a disappointing future for many, it's what we're seeing in many organizations. So performance management didn't give the results that we expected. It became too predictive and too controlling, and actually a failure, let's be honest. And why? Well, it was pretty linear, it was measurement centric, and it was haunted by the illusion of control, okay? And hence, it didn't allow us to achieve what we wanted, to develop our people so we can outperform in our market and achieve our business results. Why do we say that it was linear? Well, the approach that we had, and that sadly some organizations still have in the middle of what I call the Agile Imperative, was an approach to people and to performance in which, well, performance was evaluated once and at the end of every year. Feedback was a single delivery. Well, here for the year, this is your feedback. A lot of the feedback to the people was based on their past behavior. It assumed a low degree of change, inconsistency, and complexity. And the leadership style was pretty top-down leadership, yeah. No more than that. In terms of how it tried to approach people, it was pretty measurement centric, right? So how does that person rate? How does that person rank? So it was very focused on what today we know are flaw ratings and rankings, and very reductionist too. And finally, as mentioned, it had the illusion of control bias, all about top-down goal cascading. Well, this is the goal, down it goes, we do it. People should do it, and we should achieve that. And focus on how can I fix people or control people so we can achieve that goal that we're cascading. Hence, as we can see, it didn't have an individualized development approach. Okay, it didn't have an individualized, yes, an individualized approach to how we develop people. Okay, so this at the end hindered the performance and generated the results that we saw. And this is why today we see that a lot of organizations are trying to re-engineer their performance management. They're trying to see, well, how should we move forward, right? And this is why we see emerging in a lot of organizations Agile also as an imperative. Organizations learn that this predictive performance management approach was hindering their results, their people, and they decided to change by embracing a new process conceptualization that improved the value change and the fundamental of business processes, which is what we call reengineering at the end, as you can see here. So this shows you that agile development of people emerges as a need because this predictive performance management approach was a failure. Okay? So let's talk about this. What do we mean by agile people development? So different from the previous approach or the previous model that we discussed, agile people development or the development of people in an agile way is an iterative approach that is very centric on the person, on the people, okay, and in their development as a human being. And it's very biased toward, well, how can we achieve the impact that you're looking for, the outcome that you're looking for as you are in this journey with us in our organization, okay? We say that the agile development of people is iterative because we overview with our associates, with our employees, their performance with high frequency and continuously, right? In every sprint, we explore how we performed and how do we felt about that performance, what was achieved, what wasn't achieved. So there's a high frequency and it's continuous, it's sustainable as our Agile Manifesto teaches us as Agilists, right? Like sustainable. Agilist has that sustainability principle. It's very focused on giving feed forward to our associates and employees and in small deliveries. And it's in small deliveries because our associates or our employees get that feed forward every sprint. When we meet every morning for our daily scrum, when we meet for our sprint review, when we meet for our retrospective, there's a lot of spaces for feed forward, for improvement, so we can achieve that product that we want for the organization, or we can achieve that initiative that is key for the organization. It is based on collaboration, transparency, results, and customer value. And it is this way because a lot of time our people, our employees, our associates are doing their work in process frameworks such as Scrum, for example, that allows us to transparently overview the work that's in progress, that is in validation, that is blocked, that is done. It also allows us to make sure that it's aligned with what the customer expect. User stories allows us to check that, yes. And the constant feedback and information that we integrate from the customer allows that too. And it's very focused on collaborating, right? Between that collaboration between the product owner, the scrum master, the development team, and the whole organization and the customer. Yes, so it's based on collaboration, transparency, results, customer value. The other nice thing about the agile development of people approach is that it does assume what we are living, that is a high degree of change, is inconsistency and complexity. In complex environments, we need process frameworks such as Scrum, for example, or other agile frameworks, because it allows us to cope with that complexity. And finally, the leadership style in the agile development of people is a coaching style. Very important. As you can see, it is development centric because it is human centric. It cares about the person. So the agile development of people seeks from the beginning to learn with them and by them. What are those expectations? What are your expectations? How are you going to be accountable to yourself and to the organization in achieving those expectations that you have of yourself within the organization? Okay? And how can we support you better within the organization to achieve those expectations and be accountable to yourself? What are the system changes that we need to make sure we take care of so you can achieve that? That's the thought. It also acknowledges the people's strength, the person's strength, the associate strength, the employee strength, and actually leverages on those strengths. So I'm not seeing you as a functional profile. I'm not seeing you as a set of skills, but I'm seeing you from the strength approach. So what are this person's strengths? Yeah, so that's the different thing, because you're trying to build the organization based on a strength as a concept. It also aligns individual with team and organizational objectives and provides training and career path for people within the organization. And out of it, it allows people to have other activities, yeah? Finally, it is, as we mentioned, outcome driven or outcome bias. So it's very delivery oriented, and it assumes that there's going to be planning and replanning as information comes available. So it is based on actualization, right? That iterative approach. So that's what we call agile people development. And this approach cultivates individuality. It acknowledges people's unique qualities and its potential to be unlocked for the organizational growth and for the person growth. Very different, as you can see. And now this is not a theoretical demand, or like, yeah, but why do we need this? Well, we need this because, as we can see, after the failure of performance management, there's also a lot of evidence that says that if basically we generate an approach to people that involve them in their goal setting, that gives them meaningful feedback, that holds them accountable as agile approaches such as Scrum do, they perform better and they are more engaged and they feel better too. This is why it's important, the agile development of people. And as mentioned, one of the frameworks that we're proposing that could support that is what we call here the Agile Development Wheel, okay? And what the Agile Development Wheel says is that, well, in order for us to develop our people within our organization, we have to continuously assess and anchor, okay, their expectations, architect the right infrastructure for them to engage and be able to do their work and feel better. We have to review and retrospect with them how we keep improving our organization and the infrastructure and systems that we have in order for them to achieve what are their goals and their purposes. And we have to integrate that feedback. Yeah, so This is how the process look. And we do this with our associate, with our employee, okay, with the people. With people, we assess and we anchor, we architect, we review and retrospect, and we integrate. And all of this allows us to align with our employee and people, leverage on their strength, create engagement and transparency, create accountability, and generate excellence within the organization. You know, we're going to be excellent at meeting our customers' expectations and doing those jobs for our customers while also keeping our people happy and growing in their strengths. Okay. Now, at implementation level, what does that mean? It means a series of key activities. It means a journey with our associates or our employees. It means that when we said, well, let's assess and anchor with our employee, it means that we understand our employees' baseline performance. We are aware of that employee's needs. We are aware of their strengths. So it's a new variable that we should be aware of. We are aware of their understanding of our purpose and our vision as an organization, and we also educate them on the purpose and vision understanding by the organization. So we have the voice of the employee match with the voice of the business. Yeah. BOE match with BOB. Yeah. So we also set the expectations collaboratively with them, and we agree with our employees and associates on communication styles and frequency, so we can make assertive an assertive approach to, like, we can be assertive with them. Yeah, we can communicate properly. At architect level, it means that we establish with our employees and associates the method for our workflow, and that it's agreed and clear. We establish the tools for tracking and evaluating those objectives, those key results, and those deliverables that are expected from them and their teams. We define those result cycles with them rather than just standardizing everything. No, we define what are the result cycles for this specific team and the people that are here. We set the conversation moments with them, okay? And we try and we make sure to make them frequent. We emphasize the agency and the trust that we're given to them as employees, as associates, as our people. We contemplate together the risk and alternative that they can foresee in those deliverables and those key results. And we agree with the measurement approaches, okay, that work for the organization and for them. As you can see, some tools here that can support this agile development of our people in this architecture is, for example, Scrum, Kanban, multiple source of measurement. You know, like not only from the manager but from your teammates. Those 360, for example, assessments or evaluations are examples of multiple source of measurements that allows us to overcome the over reliance on the manager view, for example. Team cadence, progress, those constant check-ins like one-to-one allow also to build this agile development of our people, in which we can give them more feedback. We can make them feel accountable about their work, and we can make them feel that we care about their strength, the strength that they bring to the organization. Okay. The other thing is that we also have in agile development the review and retrospect with our employees and associates. And this is very important because usually we don't have this, you know, that you have that close review with them, right? Their line manager and their team, yes, and you as the HR unit, allowing them to learn, you know, well, what are those key quality criteria or acceptance criteria that your results met and which ones didn't. So it's all the stakeholders of that employee giving that employee or that associate feedback, which is different of how we do it nowadays. Imagine having the employee engage with all of his stakeholders and them giving him feedback. It gives him a very different approach, right? It's very different. So that's what we're proposing here. And also giving the employee a space to have that introspection, which a lot of organizations already know, as employee, as employer, as employee, sorry, or as associate, you do your self-assessment, and then your managers and then your colleagues do yours, right? But what we're talking here is actually of structuring that process, structuring for the employee the retrospective process. So what you did right, what you did wrong, what you could improve, what you will keep, what would you start, what would you drop, helping him in that reflective process by setting the right questions for him to overview his performance. Yeah. And also holding him accountable. So what of those things in your self-assessment that you said you wanted to drop, that you wanted to start, that you wanted to improve, did you achieve in the next month or the next quarter? Like, did you act upon those learnings? So that's something that Agile people's development actually takes into consideration. It makes sure that the employee or the associate actions upon the learnings. Okay. The other final thing is integration, and this is what we were discussing. Yes, after the employee and the associate knows what they would do 1,000 times more efficient to achieve what they achieved, or to do better or be better, those key lessons and those key practices are also showcased with the organization, showcased with the team. And those improvement guidelines that are achieved with the associate and with the employees are tracked, are monitored, and their impact is explored. And we also make sure that they're put into action. Okay. Agile-thons, showcases by the employee on what were those things that he learned and how he acted upon those next quarter or next month. Things like this help us create that spirit. Of course, for us also, it's not enough sometimes to set up the system or the right infrastructure for the development of our people in an agile way, but it can also be helpful if we have people that they are agile themselves, right? And what do we mean with agile people? We mean people that are driven by 4 core values, and those values are that they care about themselves and their relationships. They are driven by a purpose and they want to create things. They are open and they like to collaborate, and they are pretty good at responding with change. Also, these people tend to be guided by or characterized by some principles. For example, they make sure to be good, like to care about themselves so they can care and serve others. They welcome change. They break down their milestones so they can achieve them and measure their progress. They engage with their peers. They have a community of practice, and they love to network and like gain new approaches and views. They are usually people that engage in projects with motivation, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. They also care about communicating and the styles of other people. Also, they're respected. They tend to measure themselves through the results of what truly matters to them. So, you always will ask a person like this, like, well, what matters to you? And then how do you measure your progress? They will come back to what matters to them as the benchmark for their progress. So they measure their progress through their results on what really matters to them. They they balance today and tomorrow when making their decisions and acting in their environments. They seek excellence, and they are open to overview how they design their way of doing things. They are pretty good at simplifying, maximizing what they don't do. They're able to acknowledge what they do and what they don't do. So that's something characteristic of agile people. They self-organize, so you don't need to organize them. They're pretty entrepreneurial. They own the initiatives, and they just go for it. And finally, they usually are people that reflect constantly on how they can improve, how they can adapt, how they can keep on becoming the best version of themselves. So this is why we say that agile people will have 17 strengths based on those values and on those principles that we're proposing. And it's basically that at execution level, they are committed. They do what they promise, and they won't stop until that it's delivered. We also say that agile people are usually what we call pretty focused. Okay. They take a direction and follow through it and make corrections if necessary to just like stay on track. They prioritize and they act. Okay. They're very restorative too. And with this, we mean that they're pretty good at dealing with problems. They're good at figuring out what's wrong and how to solve it. So they're restorative. They are achievers, and what we mean with this is that they work hard and possess a great deal of energy. They take immense satisfaction of being busy, being like not busy, like being productive. It's not busy. They don't want to be busy. They just want to be productive, efficient, like simplifying what they don't do and what they do and achieving that they want to do. That's the right approach. At influence level, what we're proposing is that actually agile people are driven by significance. And what we mean with significance is that they want to make a big impact in their product team, in their organization, in their market, in their society. They're driven by that desire. Okay. They're actually also pretty good at activating people and just kind of like getting all the support they need so they can get the resources they need for their product, for their organization, for their teams. They are not afraid of competition because they're used to working fast-paced teams in which the development of a product can mean the differentiation in the market. So they are not afraid of being in fast-paced environments, facing the competition, and they want to be the best, and they want their team to be the best and outperform others. And they're pretty self-assurance. They're one theme in them is self-assurance. Okay. And what we mean with this is that they're pretty confident on their abilities. They're confident on their abilities. In terms of relationship building, they tend to be adaptable. And what we mean with adaptable is that they're able to adjust to their context, to flow in the context. It doesn't disturb them, changes. They're okay with that. They're also includers. They like people they like to collaborate with people. They like to listen to people. They're open to people, even if they're, like they don't care about diversity. They embrace diversity. Okay. They're pretty good at connecting with others to get things done and across. They're capable of individualizing, and with this we mean they're capable of acknowledging their team members' key qualities and how that can help them and the team and their organization deliver something better or be more productive. Okay, so they're pretty good at identifying people's unique qualities. Okay, they're also they have this theme that is called relator, and this one we take a lot from Gallup. So all our mentions to Gallup here, in a sense that we really loved this proposal by Gallup. Gallup says that the relator theme in their Clifton Strength Assessment is associated to people that enjoy close relationship with others, that they find satisfaction in working hard with friends to achieve a goal. And we believe that Agile people have that theme of relator. They enjoy like working, they have deep satisfaction in working hard and with others, and building those close relationships because they're not afraid of that. And then at a strategic thinking, the characteristics that we think Agile people have is that they're pretty analytical, they're capable of learning very fast, they're strategic, and this strategic part comes because every time that we do our scrums or Kanban, you know, we are always prioritizing, exploring what's the work in progress, what aligns with the vision, you know. A sprint planning is a strategic exercise. We create together a goal, then we define how we're going to achieve that goal. That means like we create the goal, we break it down, we set priority, we set complexities, we identify those frogs, the stinky fish, etc. So there's so many steps that we take that actually makes the exercise strategic. I'm pretty well aware of the context, right? What was our past performance? And what's the story, right? For us to take decisions to move forward. Hence, these are some of the strengths that we identify in adults. So there's a lot of tools that we have available. So feel free to connect with us. We have discovery cards, a little bit of following the model of big consultancies here, but in this case for our Agile community, because this is something that we don't have in order to identify Agile people. We have also assessment tools for try to detecting those strengths in Agile people. So if you want to get into contact, so first, feel free to go to our community, which is very open, which is the Agile Leads. And if you're already here, I owe you this. So here you go. You have the YouTube of today's session because I owed it. I owed it to those of you that couldn't come and you wanted to have the YouTube available. And those of you that are not part of the community, we're a welcome community. We learn from each other and we support each other. So you're welcome in this community. Moreover, in terms of Growth Vikings, we also have a digital community in which people can share with each other learnings, materials, learn, ask questions, connect for job matters. What happens in a community, right? So that's available at www.growthvikings.com in the area of community. At Growth Vikings, currently, we also have Agile e-learnings available for people that are curious about Agile and the different areas of Agile. We have bite-sized knowledge for those. And the most important is that it's relevant, up-to-date knowledge, right? And also, if you're seeking to assess at Growth Vikings, we also have many tools for assessments. So do feel free to reach out, and they're freely available, which is pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed and you learned something new. So I think that's it for me.